Blake Lively, actress, fashion icon, and beloved Hollywood sweetheart, has long been celebrated as one of the industry's most polished, elegant, and drama-free figures. From her early days on Gossip Girl to her marriage with Ryan Reynolds and their adorable, well-guarded family life, Blake has always maintained an image of effortless charm and controlled sophistication. She doesn't make scandals, she doesn't start feuds. She's never involved in social media meltdowns or explosive tell-alls. And that's precisely what makes this new revelation so shocking. Because for the first time in years, maybe ever, the curtain is slipping. What began as whispers from a few creators on TikTok and YouTube has exploded into a full-scale movement. Influencers, not just one or two, but dozens, are coming forward with receipts, timelines, and first-hand accounts. They're pointing to years of subtle manipulation, carefully curated brand control, and behind-the-scenes strategies that suggest Blake's perfect persona might not just be cultivated. It might be orchestrated on a level no one expected. And what's worse, the effort to maintain that image may have come at a serious cost to others. From NDA-backed influencer contracts that limit what can be said about her, to PR firms allegedly issuing private warnings to media outlets and content creators, the emerging picture is far from flattering. Blake Lively, according to some of these creators, isn't just a media-savvy celebrity. She's part of a system of influence, silence, and image management that few in the public ever see. But here's where it gets even more explosive. The influencers aren't just speculating, they're dropping dates, clips, emails, DMs, screenshots. They're pointing to specific moments where Blake seemingly reappeared online with wholesome content. The very same day a public controversy involving her orbit made headlines. Coincidence maybe, but the patterns are too precise to ignore. Even more damning is that Blake's team has stayed silent. No clarifications, no denials, no statements, and that silence, it's only fueling the fire. This isn't just another celebrity takedown, this isn't cancel culture. What we're witnessing is something much deeper, a digital unraveling of a long-standing narrative. For years, Blake Lively has been the celebrity everyone loved to love. Now, with so many creators lifting the veil and asking difficult questions, the internet is being forced to look again, to re-watch the old interviews, to reevaluate the polished Instagram posts, to ask who is Blake Lively really and what don't we know. Get ready, because over the next 5 parts we're diving into everything from the influencer backlash and media manipulation to silent power moves and brand control. The truth is out there, and it's a lot more complicated than anyone expected. This is the story of how the internet turned on Hollywood's golden girl. And it starts right now. It all started with a cryptic video just under 90 seconds posted by a mid-sized but highly respected influencer known for their in-depth celebrity commentary. Without directly naming names, they teased a major revelation involving an A-list actress known for her family-friendly image and tightly controlled PR persona. The clues were obvious enough for fans to piece together the timelines. The film references the subtle allusions to certain past controversies. Within an hour, Blake Lively's name was trending. But this wasn't just about fan speculation. The influencer dropped a follow-up video almost immediately after this, time with screenshots and timestamps from old interviews, fan encounters, and even press junkets. The central claim that Blake's public image as a genuine sweetheart might be more of a strategic invention than a reflection of who she really is behind the scenes. Suddenly, other influencers joined the conversation, big names, some with millions of subscribers on YouTube and TikTok. These weren't people jumping on a trend. Many had previously spoken positively about Blake, but now one by one they began sharing their own receipts and experiences. It became clear that there was a coordinated effort unfolding, and that this wasn't impulsive drama. This was calculated exposure. A TikToker who once worked on a brand deal with one of Blake's companies revealed that she allegedly demanded strict creative control, vetoing entire sections of content unless she appeared in the best light possible. Another influencer recounted a bizarre DM exchange with someone from Blake's PR team, warning them not to speak on a certain issue if they valued their reputation in the industry. The allegations weren't criminal, they weren't even illegal, but they were damaging. They painted a portrait of someone deeply concerned with appearances, perhaps even obsessed, and willing to manipulate narratives to maintain that control. At the heart of the issue was a now infamous podcast clip recorded over a year ago, in which a guest briefly mentioned Blake while talking about toxic dynamics in Hollywood friend groups. At the time, the clip was brushed off as vague gossip, but now in the context of what these influencers were revealing, it took on a new light. Another influencer known for uncovering inconsistencies in celebrity timelines laid out a full video essay mapping out inconsistencies in Blake's own story, from her supposed distancing from Hollywood drama to her carefully timed brand deals to her sudden reappearances. During times of public backlash, the big question wasn't whether Blake Lively was a bad person. It was whether she had built an entire career on calculated friendliness, media alliances, and strategic silences, and whether those who spoke up, including lesser-known influencers and ex-employees, had been silenced through more subtle forms of pressure. In one viral thread, a YouTuber posted an email they claimed to have received from a PR firm tied to Blake's business team. The email warned them against covering certain lawsuits and controversies tied to her name, even though these topics were already public. We advise you to reconsider associating your platform with speculative narratives, the email said. Reputational damage can often be contagious. That line alone set off a wave of backlash. Fans, especially those active on TikTok and Twitter X, began digging into what else had been cleaned up. In Blake's past, deleted videos, removed Reddit threads, pulled quotes from archived interviews. More importantly, the influencers weren't backing down. They weren't afraid of the pushback. In fact, it only strengthened their resolve. "We're not saying she's evil," one of them clarified in a live stream. "We're saying the truth matters, and that image control at this level is manipulation. And people deserve to know how the industry works." As the influencer wave surged, Blake's team remained conspicuously silent. No legal threats, no statements. Just silence, which for many spoke volumes. As the story escalated, the influencers began working together in an unprecedented way. Private Discord groups and cross-platform collaborations started emerging, where content creators were sharing screenshots, audio clips, private DMs, and even first-hand accounts from former PR professionals and event staff. A pattern was forming, and it was impossible to ignore. One creator known for their viral industry breakdowns compiled a 30-minute expose titled "The Blake Effect: How One Star Controls the Media Without Saying a Word." Within hours, it had amassed 500,000 views. The video laid out a detailed timeline of Blake's public controversies, brand deals, awards appearances, and her notable absences. And the one common thread: silence. Calculated, powerful silence. For every story Blake avoided, another went viral in her favor. When critics accused her of being absent from meaningful causes, she would quietly post on Instagram supporting something adjacent. When tensions round, another celebrity peaked, someone close to her orbit like Taylor Swift or Justin Baldoni. Blake would appear in a wholesome photo baking cookies or hanging with her kids, redirecting attention to her carefully crafted, relatable persona. Influencers began calling it the reset move, a strategy used to diffuse scandals without addressing them. And suddenly people started seeing it everywhere. But the deeper the influencers dug, the more troubling their findings became. Several recalled previously being discouraged by brands from commenting on anything involving Blake, even indirectly. One influencer who reviewed a skincare brand owned by one of Blake's business partners said their collaboration was pulled last minute after she mentioned a lawsuit involving another celebrity, one that Blake's name had quietly surfaced in during legal discovery. Another creator shared an NDA, anonymized but verified by others in the industry, that restricted any mention of personal associations, opinions, or reputational topics concerning Ms. Lively or her affiliates. The NDA wasn't part of a major studio contract. It was tied to a casual sponsored content deal for a sustainable brand Blake had invested in. That's when people realized this wasn't just about one influencer getting stonewalled. This was a structure, a network of calculated suppression layered with smiling PR strategies and perfectly timed Vogue photo shoots, and it had worked for years. Meanwhile, other influencers took the analysis a step further. They began comparing how other stars, especially women in Blake's tier, were treated when they were outspoken, messy, or involved in drama. The comparisons were damning. While figures like Megan Fox, Amber Heard, or even Kim Kardashian faced intense scrutiny for their public personas, Blake had managed to stay almost universally liked, even when she was connected to controversial stories. What made her immune? That became the central question. A viral TikTok thread titled "How Blake Lively Became Untouchable" broke it down step by step. Step 1: stay apolitical but supportive enough to please both sides. Step 2: surround yourself with other celebrities who are more visible, letting them take the hits. Step 3: never address controversy directly, wait it out, then pivot with a wholesome moment. Step 4: cultivate an off-camera image that allows people to project what they want. These strategies didn't come out of nowhere. Influencers argued they were crafted, tested, and reinforced not just by Blake but by a whole team. This is corporate celebrity branding at its most sophisticated, one influencer said during a live panel. But when it's used to suppress criticism or silence other voices in the industry, it becomes something else entirely. Even more surprising was the response from other celebrities. A few minor actors, people who had worked with Blake on smaller projects, began liking or resharing some of the influencer videos. One even commented, "Some of us have stories we never got to tell." That vague comment sparked even more digging. Reddit threads were revived, old paparazzi videos re-emerged, and certain old blind items previously dismissed as nonsense suddenly didn't seem so far-fetched. One of the most viewed videos in the influencer series was titled "Blake and the Secrets Behind the Red Carpet." It detailed how Blake allegedly controlled which outlets could interview her, what questions were allowed, and how certain clips, especially moments that showed her reacting coldly or giving passive-aggressive responses, were often scrubbed before release. A fashion vlogger recalled a moment at Cannes when Blake allegedly made a last-minute demand to change the seating chart so she wouldn't be next to a rival actress. Another influencer who once worked behind the scenes at a charity gala claimed that Blake's team pre-approved all her photo angles and refused to allow unedited candids. None of this was illegal, none of it was even scandalous by traditional standards. But together the revelations painted a picture of someone meticulously crafting her identity using tools and influence that most people couldn't even imagine. And that was the real revelation. This wasn't about a single secret being exposed. It was about pulling back the curtain on an entire system of image engineering, a blueprint that had been working for over a decade flawlessly until now. The influencers weren't accusing Blake Lively of crimes, they weren't canceling her. They were simply showing how the game is played and how someone as smart and strategic as Blake had been winning it for years. But once that curtain was pulled back, fans started to wonder, what else don't we know? By the end of the week, #BlakeGate was trending. Multiple influencers had gone viral. New commentary videos were dropping every hour, and the silence from Blake's team remained deafening. This wasn't going away, this was only the beginning. As the influencer investigation continued to spread like wildfire across platforms, from TikTok to YouTube to Reddit, the public's attention shifted towards something much more subtle, but just as powerful: the footage, not new revelations, but old ones. The internet, as it always does, began digging. Clips that had long been overlooked suddenly took on new meaning. Interviews, red carpet interactions, panel appearances, moments where Blake Lively had seemed charming and quick-witted now started to appear calculated. Fans who had once adored her unfiltered sass began asking, was it really unfiltered, or had it all been perfectly designed? One viral clip from an old talk show resurfaced, where Blake had been asked about a then-emerging co-star who'd gained attention for her activism. Blake's response, while polite, included a quick pivot to discussing staying out of loud spaces and choosing kindness over conflict. At the time, it was praised, but in today's climate, that same answer was dissected frame by frame, with influencers pointing out her body language, the shift in tone, and how the answer subtly shaded those who do speak up. It wasn't mean, it wasn't obvious, but it was effective. Another video showed a press junket in which a reporter asked Blake about working with a director who had been part of a widely reported controversy. Blake, with a smile, laughed off the question and quickly turned the conversation toward how beautiful the set design was. The clip had barely made headlines at the time. Now it was being reposted with the caption, "This is how you redirect." Without ever taking a stance, influencers began labeling this as the Lively pivot, a technique where Blake would redirect questions, refocus the conversation, or bring up her children or her fashion in moments of tension. It created a smokescreen, a pleasant, inoffensive front that neutralized difficult topics without needing to confront them. But here's where it got even more complicated. Some influencers began sharing private accounts from journalists who claimed they were warned ahead of interviews not to bring up certain subjects with Blake, including political topics, former co-stars, and her role in specific productions where there had been rumored conflicts. A former podcast host shared a now-deleted tweet recalling how a scheduled interview with Blake was canceled 2 days before recording because the team didn't like the format. The host claimed it was because they refused to share their questions in advance, a standard practice for many A-listers, but one that felt unusually strict in this case. At the same time, influencers kept reminding their audiences this isn't about villainizing Blake. It's about the broader machine, about how fame works, how reputations are curated, and how narratives are managed. Still, that message was getting lost for many viewers who were beginning to see the actress in a new, far less flattering light. The narrative was shifting, and now the public wasn't just reacting to the influencers. They were participating in the investigation. Twitter users began posting timelines connecting Blake's most viral wholesome posts to moments when her name had been mentioned in lawsuits, media feuds, or PR crises involving others. For example, when Justin Baldoni's legal battle started heating up, Blake posted a heartwarming throwback of her and her kids baking cookies. When her name surfaced in a producer's leaked emails, she posted a fashion-forward shot at a charity gala. When Taylor Swift was being attacked online for her feud with another celebrity, Blake uploaded a casual girls' night photo, smiling, wine glass in hand, appearing above the chaos. To the casual observer, these were just fun posts, but to those following the deeper patterns, they seemed like strategic distractions. Posts that told the public, "I'm not involved, look how normal I am." That growing suspicion reached a boiling point when a new influencer, one who had never commented on celebrity drama before, posted a 12-minute video titled "I worked with Blake Lively, here's what I saw." The influencer didn't share anything salacious or defamatory. In fact, she was careful. But she recounted one specific memory working backstage during a photo shoot, where Blake allegedly refused to continue shooting until her lighting was changed to match her brand aesthetic. It wasn't the demand that shocked viewers, it was the tone. She was polite, but icy. Like every word had a calculated intention, the influencer said. "I remember thinking, this woman is always working." The video hit over 2 million views in 48 hours. Suddenly, Blake's perfection became her greatest vulnerability. What once made her beloved, the perfect clothes, the camera-ready statements, the curated privacy, now made her seem inaccessible, unreal, contrived. And in that vacuum, people started wondering, what part of Blake Lively is real? Is it the girl next door fashionista, the protective mother, the light-hearted prankster wife to Ryan Reynolds, the activist who shows up when it's trendy but rarely speaks beyond the surface? Or is it someone entirely different, someone we've never seen? Because the image has always come first to make matters more intense. A few Hollywood insiders began posting vague comments of their own. A former assistant director posted a tweet that simply read, "The nicest people on camera rarely are off camera. I've learned that lesson more than once." Another stylist hinted that certain red carpet favorites are never as chill as they seem. They didn't name names, but the timing was unmistakable. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds, often seen as the comedic counterpart to Blake's polished elegance, remained entirely silent on the matter. Influencers speculated that his absence was either part of their divide and conquer PR strategy or a sign that the heat was reaching both of them. One viral thread questioned whether Ryan's entire online persona, funny, self-deprecating, hyper-aware, had been built to make Blake's aloof silence feel balanced rather than cold, a calculated dynamic, or coincidence. Regardless, the influencers now had momentum. With each upload, each side-by-side comparison, each revelation, more and more fans found themselves rethinking everything they thought they knew about Blake Lively. And Blake, still no statement, still no acknowledgement, still no cracks in the public-facing image. But behind the scenes, something had clearly shifted. PR insiders noticed a sharp drop in her team's media outreach. An interview scheduled with a popular magazine was quietly removed from their lineup. A collaboration with a high-end fashion house was delayed indefinitely. Influencers took this as a sign the silence wasn't strength. It was retreat, and they weren't done yet. After thousands of comments, millions of views, and hours of influencer-led investigation, one thing has become crystal clear: the narrative around Blake Lively is no longer solely hers to control. For years, she was praised for her media savvy, her quiet elegance, her refusal to engage in the messiness of celebrity culture. But in 2025, that image has collided head-on with the digital era's hunger for authenticity, accountability, and most importantly, transparency. This saga wasn't born out of scandalous accusations or tabloid lies. It wasn't triggered by legal documents or leaked court files. It was driven by influencers, people who have grown up dissecting the machinery of fame. They didn't attack Blake with hate. They simply did what the traditional media often refuses to: ask questions, find patterns, and speak without permission. And the picture they painted was compelling, not of a villain but of someone who may have spent years quietly controlling the narrative, benefiting from selective silence, and building a brand rooted not in chaos but in curation. That's what makes this entire controversy so uniquely modern. It isn't about an explosive secret or a single shocking moment. It's about the power of perception and how tightly some celebrities grip it. Blake Lively didn't need to shout or scheme to stay beloved. All she needed was timing, restraint, and the silence of those who once dared to speak out. But that silence is gone now. The influencer community has pulled back the curtain, and behind it, we've seen the mechanics of brand management at its highest level. From NDA letters and back-channel warnings to strategic Instagram posts and red carpet disappearances, the tools used to preserve the Blake Lively ideal have now been exposed. And the public, they're no longer content to just accept the polished version. They want the full story. They want depth, nuance, and honesty, not perfect lighting and PR-safe captions. That shift, that craving for realness, is something even the most powerful Hollywood teams can no longer control. So where does Blake Lively go from here? Only time will tell. Maybe she'll speak, maybe she won't, but one thing is certain. Her silence is no longer interpreted as grace, it's seen as avoidance. The Blake Lively of yesterday, the untouchable golden girl, may still exist in glossy photos and filtered feeds, but in the digital arena, a new chapter has begun. And this one isn't written by studio heads or publicists. It's being documented in real time by the very people who once idolized her. Influencers, fans, and the ever-curious public aren't just observing anymore, they're holding everyone accountable, even Blake Lively.